Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia, the podcast where we rate and review all the kings of Persia from Diocles to Yazdegerd III. I'm Serial, and my pronouns are they, them.
And I'm Umberto, my pronouns are he, him.
And I am Plumas, and my pronouns are she, her.
Welcome to our recording, Plumas.
Yay!
Welcome to the podcast.
Plumas. Hello.
We're so happy to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here. I am the biggest fan of So You Can Think You Can Rule Persia. I am a fan of the logo. I'm a fan of the people. I'm a fan of the people you talk over on the podcast. So thank you guys so much for having me. This is a gift.
Course.
Thank you.
It's the least we could do after you hosted us so kindly in your own home.
Oh, come on. It's the least I could do. I am the pelican godmother of Twitter Historia. So I just go around godmothering people. And I had to, I think it's the same I told you when I had you over on Twitch. There's not enough content, accessible content on Iranian history or history of Iran and the Persianate. So anything dealing with that is going to have my complete support. So it's like, yes, of course, I need to display you and have these two lovely people in the front row being like, look at them, follow them, love them as I do.
That is so lovely. I'm very, very happy that we found you through this project and that we've become friends through the project, and that also just, that you're enjoying what we're doing, because you are the expert here.
Yes,
way more of an
expert
expert than either of us, certainly than me, because I have no idea about anything.
More than me,
but
definitely.
I don't really think I'm an expert. That's something that's really, I thank you, I appreciate it. But I don't know, I always feel like super humble being like, oh my God, you're the expert.
Well, listen. I said you're more of an expert than either of us. And that is true. So, take that as you will. For anybody who doesn't know Plumas, I feel like we should have a little introduction. Dr. Laura Castro. aka Plumas, which you'll be able to find her socials somewhere in the description. We'll put it over there. She is very active on Twitter and also hosts streams on Twitch about, the Persian Empire and art and culture and everything related to that, which some of them are in English, some of them are in Spanish. So if you're interested in knowing a bit more about that, please check her out. The content is incredibly interesting and amazing. So we're very, very happy to have you here to have a bit of a conversation. Yeah. Oh,
yes. And we're going to talk actually about, I remember when we were preparing this episode, Sariel really kindly said, don't worry, you can only talk about your favorites, because they know I have a type for the Achaemenids, and Umberto knows as well. So I'm just very happy. If you hear me giggling a lot, it's because I tend to laugh a lot. If any of my Bacha are listening, they already know this. But I am just very happy to be here. So thank you again. I am humbled. I'm honored.
All right, let's get started then.
Yes, so Plumas told us that she has a lot of notes from the episode. So we're going to go through them and discuss the various kings, starting from Cyrus, because nobody likes the medians, poor medians.
I mean,
give them a hug.
I mean, nah. Nah.
Well, I mean, to be quite fair, if we do not have that much information about them, then it's only reasonable that they're harder to be liked, if that's the way to put it.
Yeah, they're less people than the other ones because they're in the shadows, hidden away. So,
possibly. I myself don't know much about the Median Empire, and I only got to know them through Cyrus's bio. But I know more, and I'm quoting in there at the minute, I know more about the Medians when they are already a satrapy of the Achaemenid Empire rather than actually the kingdom of Media as it is. I know more about the Mada tribes than the Mada Empire. And I have my powerful tool with me, which is the Achaemenid notebook, which is a tiny notebook that was gifted to me by the Archaeological Museum from Alicante. So thank you for that. They had a major exhibition called Iran, Cradle of Civilizations. I think the catalog can be found online, some of the pictures, and I do recommend you to have a look at that because it was impressive. And I'm just very happy that a tiny museum, because this is not very big, but this tiny museum got to arrange and display this amazing exhibition. And it was like, it covered more than 5,000 years of history. It was ambitious, but it was very, very cool. And in this notebook, we have a relief of what I believe is either a Bactrian or a Sogdian. I don't know. Nadim, if you're listening to me, please tell me who is this person. But it's one of the reliefs from Persepolis. I told Umberto this before, and I'm not ashamed of admitting that I forget things super often. And I used to know and identified all the embassies in the Apadana of Persepolis. Now I don't. I forgot, so I don't remember who this person is. But in here, I binge listen to all the episodes. I'm up to date with them. I just listened to the latest one, and I took little notes. And I don't want to scare anyone, and just to make it clear, just disclaimer to myself: these are not corrections, because actually everything said was correct, and it was super on point, and I really liked it. This is more like notes that I thought we could bring to the conversation, because we could use a little bit like a side note or like a tiny digression. They're like, oh, this topic is so interesting. Let's talk a little bit more about that. And so yeah, I'm really, really excited. And also I showed them also before, but I have tiny doodles and drawings as I got through my notes, because I was laughing. I was laughing at
I am so excited to see what you thought about the episodes that we've released.
Oh, it's so good. I really like them. I mean, anything remotely connected with Cyrus, I'm gonna like.
So, tell me about it.
because
Cyrus is a popular man.
Secret to nobody. Cyrus is possibly the biggest historical crush I had. It's because I really, really like Cyrus.
Aww.
So yeah, and actually,
Our golden boy.
Oh my god, yeah. But I think, should we start with Cyrus?
Yeah, sure. If you
why not?
Yeah. Sorry, Cyrus sounds good.
Well, actually, I don't know if you guys are fans, like anime fans, but you know how in anime there's popularly called as the three big, which are Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece. My three big are Cyrus, Dara, and Xerxes. So we're going to talk about these three big. Yeah. And I started taking notes on Kurosh, which I think has the most beautiful name ever, because Kurosh is just like, I don't get why the Greeks have to butcher everything they touch, but that's okay. We'll go with Cyrus. We can go with Cyrus. It's fine. And I wanted to talk about something that happened to me as well when I was researching, and when I first came across the Cyrus cylinder. And we can all agree that it's not the first declaration of human rights whatsoever. But
yeah,
still,
please.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I understand that, especially from the Western academic part, we tend to look at it with a little more, we're skeptical about it, and we don't understand how important it was, because there was a lot of propaganda on it. But I made this mistake when I was researching myself, and I even published an article in where I said, like, I treated only the propagandistic part, which it is there, but that's also not comprehending the whole thing, because the cylinder is fully in the Babylonian tradition of jurisprudence. I think we can all think of the Hammurabi Code, which is also practices of jurisprudence, and those were used to resolve legal issues. Not exactly as a law code as we have now, because we need to do this exercise of putting ourselves in the shoes of the past, and doing so is so important to avoid something that we call presentism, which is judging the past with the eyes of the present. Super difficult. Like, I know it's super difficult to think that such things as slavery were okay with these people. I understand. But regarding the jurisprudence, this cylinder, as all the cylinders before Cyrus, and as all the cylinders after Cyrus, because this is not a unique thing.
Right.
Definitely not. Like, a lot of people have their own cylinders. These were used as practical legal tools. And when in doubt, people would go to the cylinder and to see or read what the king had said, how the king had pronounced himself regarding certain matters when they were in the need for some kind of advice, and they could not find it with the other practices they have. So I really like the topic of the series. Calendar is so complicated because the most nationalistic part of the history of Iran takes it as something that's not, as Umberto commented on the Shah parade. Have you watched it?
I don't. Oh yes, I have just watched like a few brief clips about the, what is it, 1973?
I think so. If it's like 70 something, I cannot recall it by memory, but it's just it literally, it was too much. I don't know. There was this BBC documentary that is, if I can say this bluntly, a catastrophe regarding how they treat Iran, because it's super orientalistic and super paternalistic. But the first episode is actually very good. And the first episode is I would recommend it, not the other two. But in the third one, they explain the thing with the parade, and they show like a lot of images and videos and explain to you how opulent it was to the very, very limit. It's like, this was not necessary. And a lot of that has sunk in the Iranian modern thought. So it's quite common hearing people saying, oh, we never, guys, if you're studying history, if you're writing history, if you are doing whatever regarding history, never use the we, because it was not you. It was definitely not you. And it was not us. Yeah. We were not there. So
it's quite impossible, not only geographically, but also just, time-wise. Turns out nobody has been alive for that many years. So don't pretend like you have.
That we've known of. There's some kind of supernatural being around. No, but jokes aside, some people in Iran said, oh, we invented human rights, when, first of all, Cyrus's cylinder was not unique. The thing that's unique to Cyrus is the how he dealt with demographics. That's quite unique and different from it, like allowing people to go back to their original birthplaces, to the motherlands, all the way. He was quite open about the religious cult, which is something the Achaemenids never actually imposed on anybody. Like, they were not, as long as they pay taxes in money, animals, fabric, and workforce, an army force, everything was okay. So I wanted to put a note on this, saying certainly is not a declaration of human rights, but it was connected to the legal Mesopotamian tradition, and definitely it was used as a legal tool. And it's important because it's different to the rest of them. I always say this: Cyrus and Dara especially, I believe they were extremely intelligent, and also they surrounded themselves with a lot of intelligent advisors. Like they knew who to put on their side to make the most out of their ideas. And I don't know how much I can extend on this, but I could just
we're happy to listen, and this will be a very interesting conversation. And if it's too much, we'll just edit it. Don't worry, it's fine.
It's fine. We can fix it.
This is not a direct, this is not live. So we have some wiggle room. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you. Well, you're so lovely. Just Plumas, come here and fangirl over Kurosh all you want. It's not like we have something else to do with our lives.
Tell us about Persepolis all the way into the morning. It'll be fine.
Oh,
exactly.
I actually, Umberto, this is a personal thank you to you, because you mentioned Persepolis, you mentioned Susa as well, but you also remember that Ecbatana exists.
Yeah, of course. The poor summer capital.
Thank you.
It needs some love.
Yes, it does. Thank you. I have a note here that says Ecbatana exists. So thank you for that.
Excellent.
Yeah, it does. Like, people tend to forget, and people tend to forget about Susa. It's like, how do you forget about Susa?
I don't forget about Susa, because the first time I learned about the Achaemenids, I was surprised that they came so close to where I live, because there's a town that, through pure coincidence, is called Susa, just next to where I grew up. It's absolutely unrelated, but I thought it was very weird until I finally
what a shame.
Opened a map.
I thought you were going to be oh yeah, they were here for real. They were right next to it.
I had to content myself with the Roman ruins.
Oh my God. Oh my God. For a moment, I was going to say, well, did you grow up in Iraq?
No. That would have been a plot twist, but no.
Yeah, I love, I couldn't visit. I was going to say the remainings of Susa. There's nothing. There's nothing. That is like everything's reconstructed. But I didn't get to visit Chogazambil, which was in Elam. And because Elam is another. Oh, we can talk about Elam at some point. But
Sure.
But yeah, I thank you for just mentioning Ecbatana. It's like I love it.
I mean, we did the medians. It would have been a shame not to mention Ecbatana. So,
thank you. Correct. And I also noticed that possibly because of following a decision of like easier understanding, and because I understand that you guys don't have time to explain every little nuance, and that's perfectly okay because that's not what your podcast is about. It's about naming Shahanshahs and Shahanas, because if you ask me, that's the best pun in the whole thing. Like that and Eran Shine. Please, can we give these people an Oscar? Thank you. BAFTA for this puns. And but it
was Umberto's doing, so you can thank him for it.
I love it. The genius. Like, I'm not saying this just because. I think the genius is like, oh dear, this is perfect.
But yes, you're correct. We're not supposed to, be a university course. We're not giving lectures. We make mistakes.
Please look for serious historians if you need information. We're here to get you vaguely interested in it, and then you can look deeper if you feel like it.
And I think this is the most amazing
slightly
thing
satirical, educational podcast, but a podcast after all. So
yeah, and I have a note on saying like that. I not written down, but saying that you guys do this, we're laughing, I think is perfect and brilliant, because we sometimes tend to think that people in the past didn't laugh and they were also serious about everything. It's like, excuse you, but sense of humor has existed. It comes with human nature. And the fact that you were talking about these kings and judging them in such a, I said that we should avoid presentism, not in this podcast. Like, no, we should avoid.
I mean, I always find it so funny that a lot of human humor has not actually changed that much. Like, there's a lot of jokes that we can still get, and they're thousands of years old.
I mean, we have Roman joke books that still have jokes that actually, track with what we have. So, it hasn't changed that much.
I've said this many times on the podcast, but yes, it's people be people.
Exactly. I don't really think, for example, I'm gonna talk about him a little bit later, but I do not think that when this person mutilated himself, like, cutting his nose and ears and came before Darius being like, my king, I have a brilliant idea. I can only imagine that being like, oh my God.
Yes. What the hell did you do?
That is the same.
Why?
I cracked the code. I know how we are going to defeat the Babylonians. And I just imagine Dara completely pale, just clenching his fist against his seat, being like, okay, have you talked this through with someone?
Do you need help now? But
And it's perfect because it worked. I was telling someone in my family this the other day, and they were like looking at me like, yeah, no wonder how it worked. Everybody would think no one would do that to themselves. Yes.
Yeah, of course. Because I still can't, like, sometimes I remember, sometimes I just, I go back to thinking about the things that we've talked about in this podcast. I go to my notes to just, read up on them and be like, okay, what happened last time? And there's these little things that I'm like, how did this happen?
I know.
They were really, what? Did I dream this? This can't
like that
be.
And the Ash murder. It's a lot of things that happen.
Oh my God, I love that. I always think that Parisatis is given a lot of hate because she's a woman and she's like seen from the Greek sources. And like Devon Cole sung in that song, she's a woman in total control of herself. So this is like, and that must have been so scary.
Oh no, definitely.
Well, yeah,
I'm
exactly.
sure she was a terrifying woman because
Barisatis is amazing.
so capable.
Women always get a bad rep.
So incredible.
But it's because of the Greek sources, and the Greeks are very misogynistic people. I mean, I know
they love to just blame the women for whatever decision, whatever event, whatever happened. But also, in this case, with this particular person, she just happened to be a psychopath. You know,
it happens sometimes.
Like credit where credit is due.
She's not a psychopath. I'm just gonna say,
perhaps not in a clinical sense of the word. Of course,
she had tools, she had reasons, and I can't imagine her being so fed up with everybody around being like, okay, if you want something to be done properly, do it yourself.
Yes, correct.
So I know what people. I mean, if people listening to this know me from somewhere, they know this already. But if not, I am absolutely biased. Just take it from now as like I am. If I take the Greek side, people are gonna come take my PhD from me, take my Iranology card from me, and be like, no, you aligned with the enemy. Bad Plumas. Like I know. To me, like the Greeks I cannot trust them because I can't. It's just I'm an Iranologist, but I enjoy them from time to time.
Well, this is what we're here to do. Honestly, we're here to give the other part that perhaps sadly not so often covered view, from the other side. Also, please, everyone listening to the podcast knows that this is not an objective source of information. That would defeat the whole purpose of it.
No, and even in my own streams, I'm not objective because we cannot. I mean, I like the Persians, so I'm going to speak. I'm going to try to be as objective as possible, but there's not such thing as the history. There's multiple histories. There's multiple views and points of view on a particular event, but for somebody was the major event that changed the course of history. That's a lot of Thermopylae, which saved nobody and nothing. And
Athens was burnt like 2 weeks later. It's fine.
For other people, it was just like, yeah, that happened. That's it. And sadly, but yeah. So on the note, we were talking about simplicity and how you make Iranian history accessible. I noted that you talk about Zoroastrianism, and while that's not wrong entirely, the proper word, like this is something I wanted to comment, and again, it's not a mistake, it's just a nuance that I feel is important, and it gives you a better insight on how the minds at the time worked. Zoroastrianism got only known as Zoroastrianism in the very late period because the figure of Zarathustra or Zoroaster or Zarathustra was higher and higher deemed by the Sasanians, especially because the cult, like the religion, changes a lot under the Sasanian Empire. You will get there. I'm not going to spoil anything because this is what Umberto and Sariel are here for, telling you about the Sasanian kings. But actually, what we know from this religion in the very early times, actually, we don't have this much knowledge of the religion. For example, Cyrus professed. Possibly it was something related to the Mastian cult, and the word, at least the Achaemenid word we use, is Mazayasna, because Ahura Mazda was always present. They are the head of the Mesopotamian pantheon, and as Umberto and Sariel already said, Mazayasna and Zoroastrianism later, and Mathdeism, it's not the first monotheistic religion. It slowly became monotheistic because of the influence of other monotheistic religions like Islam, Christianity, or Judaism. Mm-hmm. But Mazda is something we call henotheism, which that means there's a major deity, a main deity up in the pantheon. In this case, it's Ahura Mazda, the wise creator. And then underneath them, there's multiple. And when I say multiple, I mean multiple. All the deities and divinities and important figures that help with the cult. And they are also regarded and deemed as important. And in this period, for example, there's this, I want to call them concepts or ideas, which are the Amesha Spenta, which are 6 personalities and 6 aspects of Ahura Mazda. Those with time would become personified and anthropomorphic, and that's super, super, super nice. I mean, they are my favorite. I love the Achaemenid so much because my jam mythology is made jam on toast with tea. That's there. And
actually, I was wondering about the Achaemenid, like how, because I never really understood how separate they are from Ahura Mazda.
At the beginning, they're not at all.
Okay.
They are aspects of him. I'm not saying that this is the same, but Iranic religions, and sorry if you hear an accent, it's because I have one. I'm a Spanish speaker, so you hear to say Iranic, like it's like I'm not. Yes, I mean I do have an accent, and some things are very difficult for me to pronounce in English because of the R's. Because
listen, neither of us is a native speaker of English, so please, just nobody's going to judge.
Oh,
love
no,
an
absolutely.
accent.
Oh, thank you. And I love when Sariel is surprised, you can hear the Spanish in the back. I can't, and it's just amazing because I don't know which episode it was, but they were really surprised. They were like, ah.
I think it was Sayaxaris with
listen, it comes out sometimes.
What can I say? Because I thought that's the most Spanish I heard in the whole episode. We have a very particular way of surprising ourselves. So yeah, at first, the Iranic religions have tight connections with the Rig Veda, the Vedic religions, and the Indian cults and mythology. So these aspects, they kind of became avatars, but completely different in Iran. But it's like, imagine a deity with multiple like facets of them. And those were the good thought, the ultimate truth, totality, immortality, these kind of things that were concepts that Ahura Mazda englobed. They encapsulated that, and then over time, people started mentioning these Achaemenid more and more separately, and they formed the Heptad, which is the group of 7 deities, which are like the main thing. These are the peeps. These are the cool gang in the Zoroastrian pantheon, and then you have the Fravashi, the Yazatas, which are my favorite, and like a myriad of creatures going on and about. So yeah, that's just a note. If you ever hear, Zoroastrianism is the first monotheistic religion, really? No. No. And so yeah, I'm gonna move on my. If you want to make, this is me auto-inviting myself and going against all my Arab and Iranian friends have ever told me. If you want to do an episode on Zoroastrianism, I would love to be here.
Well, I guess in the Sasanians, we'll definitely need someone who knows things to help us. So.
Come on, with you were talking about the Sasanians, you need to talk about what I call, and yes, this is my label. Don't look for it in the Achaemenid books. Yeah, claro que sí.
Sure.
Venga. The academic books, the Beyonce of the Iranic pantheon is the Yazata Anahita. If you talk about the Sasanians, you need to talk about Anahita. It's like, she queen, she royal, she reina del Martes Santo. Like, she's just amazing. And
yes, you'll have to come back and tell us all about her when we get to the Sasanians and delve into that environment. Following in Cyrus, you mentioned, of course, you dedicated a lovely minute to Pasargada and the Tomb of Cyrus, and actually you talked about the city and how it had the gardens and all the structures. It must have been such like a feast to the eyes, but unfortunately I need to come here being like, well, actually,
and that's why you're here, so please do go ahead.
I'm going to talk about the Tomb of Cyrus, which actually we don't know if it's the Tomb of Cyrus. And I'm sorry, people out there, I'm really sorry. I know this hurts, but we are not 100% sure, because unlike the other Achaemenid tombs, for example, that are Xerxes, Artaxerxes, that you have inscriptions and you have ways of identifying the kings, the Pasargada one is super empty. Like, there's nothing in there. And I want to believe it is. Like, I kneeled down when I was in Iran. I kneeled down before that tomb and I threw a kiss at Cyrus's tomb. I have no shame in saying this because he's my favorite. And there's things that there's no inscription, but there's things that point us at least to a Mathayasna connection, because the tomb is separated from the ground and with these very big stairs, very chunky, big stairs, and made of limestone. And that being separated from the ground could be an indication of, like, not Cyrus's corpse didn't want to touch the ground, which in Zoroastrianism shouldn't, because the corpses are corrupt and the earth is sacred, the soil is sacred. It's actually one of the Messerspenta. So, it should not be touched. And so maybe, and I have a note here. It's been a while, but because I did not agree on the low grade he got in skimminess, because I think the Babylonian approach and the creation of the cylinder was very skimmy, and I want him to have like a higher rank on that. But
I feel like that's more legalistic. It's
to be completely fair. This is not, but I mean, you know, I would have given like. The thing is, I much agree with what Sadia said. Like, Cyrus is too good for this podcast. Like, the winner so far is Dara, and I honestly hope nobody takes the crown from him, because if there's king from Iran that is suitable to be the winner of this competition, that is Darayavush the first. And I know, I have like all the Sasanians in my ear at the minute, like, but I did, I know. But this person rewrote history. What did you do, Shapur? Clean that beard. So, Oh, and actually, I wanted to share something, but for me, it's super exciting. Do you remember that you showed in the Face of Faces, you showed this engraving, this print of a person that supposedly is Cyrus with a casket on his head?
Yes,
yes.
Very famous picture.
So me and Muhammad Rasulipur, which you shared his art, and I'm super happy you did. More Rasulipur is actually a friend of mine, and Muhammad is, it's just, go check him out.
Yes, he's been very nice, and everybody should check him out. Please
he's
do.
Lovely. He's so lovely, and we talk often, and we laugh a lot because we are both super big nerds of the Book of Kings, and it shows. But we were doing like a super insightful research, finding the author of this, because it's not identified anywhere. And someone messaged Muhammad, and I'm showing Umberto and Sariel, I'm showing the screen. Like, this is all the Persian text. I can barely read it. But basically, it's an illustration for the Old Testament portrait by, I cannot pronounce his name. I don't know if it's German or Dutch. I'm really sorry. It was made in 1878. The portraits were drawn by someone called A. Rowan, and they were engraved by someone called G. Pearson. So that is the author of this portrait, but unfortunately, that is not Cyrus.
Is it not? Damn. Why?
No, damn
Why is everything not true?
Oh no, because actually the inscription that is above his head, it says, I am Cyrus, I am the king, I am an Achaemenid. But if we know something, is that Cyrus never called himself an Achaemenid. It was Dara. So that was added later by him, because it's like, see, he even said that himself, because Dara, mi amor, Azizam, he could not stop.
Wait, but is it Cyrus though? Even if the inscription is not true, or so they just put that inscription on top of someone's portrait? Just some random. Oh, great! I mean, wonderful.
To be completely fair and true to the archaeological finds, I cannot say, oh, definitely 100% that was not Cyrus. There's a percentage that it was, but based on the iconography, it's really strange that Cyrus represented himself with the wings that the spirit from Mesopotamia had. The piece he's wearing in his head, that's not a crown, and it looks very strange for a king. So it's not the representation of a king. Most certainly, we don't know who this person is. We don't know even if it's a person. And this iconography is super different to the King of Kings images that we preserve. Yes, that redefined everything and changed everything, but not so much. This just there's just so much you can change within your lifetime, especially regarding the visual language. That is something, for example, it happens in Iran as well when the Ilkhanids come over. Yes, I mean, it was about time I mentioned the Ilkhanids. When they come over, they actually redefine the visual language of Iran and they change it for like forever. But it takes at least 200 years to be settled. So just imagine that I could just not just change everything.
Yeah, you can't change
the Assyrian
whole
tradition,
context.
exactly. The Assyrian tradition was very well established, and you've seen that they copy the lamassu and the winged bulls and the winged lions. They just adapt this iconography, but it does not change radically. So this Cyrus thingy, it's not him. If you want to look at a very nice representation of Kurosh, and this may be surprising, go look at the video game Civilization 6. They have a magnificent Kurosh.
Yeah.
And they even talk, if he starts speaking Persian. He's so cute.
Nice. Yes, I only remember Civilization 4 version where it is that engraving, basically. So
yeah, and in the fifth,
so they did change it. That's nice.
Oh yeah, they did.
Nice that they
Thank God they did. But yeah, and also, sorry. The last thing I have is the postal service, because unfortunately they did not invent it. They adapted the postal service. They adapted the system that they have from the Assyrians. But the person behind all that was Dara.
Of course it was.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Xenophon gives it to Cyrus, but
if
it is
anything
the
at all,
Cyropedia.
if anything at all happens, there's a 50% chance at least that it was Dada's fault.
Yeah. Oh, I love
is what I've learned.
Why do I say Dara and not Darius? Because Darius is super difficult for me to pronounce, the Spanish person, and Dara is just perfect.
Probably more correct, so
but it's really fun because the original, like the old Persian name is Dariush, but now my Persian friends, I have a Persian friend and his name is Dariush, and it's super difficult for me to call him like that, so I can just call him Dara and he's fine with it. Like, all right, you do
we
you.
all have our ways.
Yeah, they it's really like, it's super fun because my Iranian friends cannot, they in Persian there's not the sound u as we have in Spanish. So plumas, they actually say plumas, and it's hilarious. And
that's so cool.
This is to all my Persian speaking friends. And Michelle, I love you and thank you for trying. Yeah, in Persian it's not that fun. In Persian, it's like the name of my project is Parhaye Semorg. Parhaye Semorg. And it's like, okay, I prefer Plumas. It sounds like much deeper, profound. And oh yeah, I mean that's everything I have to say about Cyrus. I enjoyed the chapter a lot, and I'm very happy that he got 2 episodes, because we have
basically
Astiages is just basically Cyrus.
Yeah, Cyrus the prequel.
Astyages is the prequel, and then we get to see Cyrus all grown up and doing things of his own, which was, I really enjoyed that.
That was fun. Yeah. I like the separation. I think Cyrus so far, among the episodes I've planned so far, is only one of 2 that gets 2 episodes to themselves. And the other one is coming up, and we'll see.
You need to tell me. Like, once this is over, you need to message me who this person is, and I'm going to probably like, yes. But I really, something I love about Cyrus, and as much as I am a big fan, I think we should not forget that we know very little about Cyrus, and sometimes legend and these projections of what Cyrus was wanted to be take over the original person. And it's just something we need to have in mind, that we don't know him very well as we know all the kings. And I'm talking about Dara for sure, but I'm talking about Xerxes, Artaxerxes, and all the kings. I'm not going to spoil anything in the podcast. Sure. But the legend sometimes, because Cyrus, not only for the national discourse, for the and I'm going to use a couple of words that I love using, the self-defining narrative. Cyrus was everything, and even Dara used his figure as the spine for his own empire. He cared enough to connect himself to Cyrus using these supposedly ancestor Achaemenid, and that tells us a lot about how deeply the Cyrus legacy was anchored in the self-defining narrative of what would be the Achaemenid empire later and the Achaemenid dynasty. And also that has carried on through history. And now Cyrus is considered to be the father of modern day Iran, which is, by the way, something very inaccurate because modern day
there's
countries,
a lot in the middle.
Exactly. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But just that note, like to remember that Cyrus is an amazing historical figure, but we have little information about him compared to the amount of information we have about all the later posterior kings. Maybe because of that, his legend is so great, and we have created this popular image of Cyrus as a perfect ruler. Because I'm not rejecting the idea of him being super intelligent and compassionate, and because I don't know if you knew of this, but one of the things he said about him is that he wept for an entire week when his wife, his second wife, passed away, when Casamana died. It was like they are also put out like the ideal marriage. So sometimes legends overcome historical discourses. So just take the figure of Cyrus, and look who's telling you that it's like the biggest fan of Cyrus. Just take it with a pinch of salt, because if anything, Cyrus was great. He was the great, but a lot has been added later to his legacy. So just careful with that.
Also, I was surprised that there is, at least not that I've heard, there is no mention of Cyrus like in the Shahnameh or later works.
Actually, it's super interesting. Oh no, Umberto did it. He opened the gate to the Shahnameh. Now I'm not gonna shut up, and this is gonna be the longest episode I've ever recorded. So in the Shahnameh, the knowledge of the Achaemenids is very diluted. But because the Shahnameh is connected to the Sasanians through the Khodainameh, which is another book, I'm going to stop there, I promise. But they have some kind of knowledge of this ancient empire, because, Tahta Jamshid, which is the throne of Jamshid, is actually Persepolis. Sure. Nakhsh Rostam is called like that because they thought that the person on the carving was not Shapur, it was Rostam, defeating some kind of enemy, which is a very Rostam-like thing to do. And there must have been something, but yes, like the historical knowledge was lost. Although, for example, my thesis supervisor and all the scholars are actually researching if possibly some of the characters of the Shahnameh could be the Achaemenid kings. I am very up for that. Although the one they chose to be Cyrus, I'm like, okay.
But drama in the scholarly circles.
And I like Kai Kavuz, but Kai Kavuz, I don't know. He's a special peep. He's special, very special.
I love this. I feel like we're in high school and we're just gossiping about like, oh yeah, do you know what he said? And he said this. Oh no, what? Can you believe this? No, I have a very different opinion. What? How could you think that?
Yeah, that's basically what history. I mean, that's the point. We make history sound like super boring and super like intense and stuff. It's like, no, we gossip about the dead. That's what we do. We express opinions on the dead. So I have Cambyses now.
Yes,
I have very few notes on Cambyses. Like, I just say like you already said this in the episode you covered, that you mentioned that a lot of the sources portrayed him as mad, both Persian and Greek. And I'm gonna read my note. I'm quote from my notebook. It says, "Madness. ... He was not mad, but deeply hated and ... Well ... That happened." So it's possible that a lot of the information we have on Cambyses is twisted. Also, if anyone was curious, the original Old Persian name of Cambyses is Kambugia. How did the Greeks hear Cambyses? I have no idea. Like how? That's little effort. Greece. Hellas, I am disappointed. And I actually like Cambyses a lot, possibly because of everything that went on during his life and everything he had to put up with. And I'm really happy that you mentioned that you told the episode of the Apis bull, and you said that possibly that is absolutely fake. And that's correct, because in the Mazdian religion, bovines are super, super, super sacred. And why would he do that? Like, it's same with the fire.
Right.
Like,
with the
fire.
burning the pharaoh, he's sort of blaspheming against his own religion and someone else's. Why would he do that?
Why would he kill a bull or a cow? Why would he? Like, this literally. If anything, and this is completely my opinion, in case someone wonders, if anything, if he was presented to a sacred cow, he would understand this sacred cow as his own, in the sense of, oh yeah, this cow is sacred for you. I understand that, because bovines are super important in my religion as well. I mean,
well, and even more of a reason then, if you want to slander someone and actually give them like retroactively a very, very bad fame and, you know, hated person, everyone wants to talk shit about them, wouldn't that make it even better if this bull was sacred for both cultures involved? Because then it makes it terrible in the eyes of ones and the others. Like, it's just overall,
Definitely.
it's just all around terrible thing to do. Sure. So it makes sense that it would be something you would make up to, you know, be like, look how terrible this person is. Yeah,
I think you're the most correct. And it's the same with the fire. The Mazdian fire cult would have been too strong, although there is always like room for mistakes and people being stupid, because remember, people are people.
Yes.
But I don't know. I think it's just like bad publicity. And same with the Nubian bow thing. There was a very strong interest in showing Bardia and Cambyses' enemies, because
because that's how the story has to play out for it to rise.
And here is when my personal, like, my notes are always personal, but then I have like myself getting into here, and I quote from myself: I appreciate Umberto avoiding any mentions to Dara. Because he was in here, it says Behistun ordered by a later king, and then I just doodle myself laughing, because I was like, like, good for you, like, very good.
Well, listen, we have to avoid
spoilers,
thousands years old spoilers. Exactly. Yeah, you know, for me, all of this is new, so you want my genuine reaction, then you can't tell me about the things.
I'll slowly reveal to you that the Achaemenids are no longer in power currently, and then you'll find out how that happened.
Exactly. They don't last forever.
No,
thank God.
because unbelievable.
I know. They should be still around. Now we get to one of my favorite characters in the entire world in this historical dilemma, which is Bardia. I love Bardia.
Our good boy.
Good boy. The first thing I say here, I noted down the word cantaloupe. You, sir, my good sir, you called Bardia, you called Prince Bardia, son of Cyrus, a cantaloupe. And I wrote, I'm sorry, I'm going to switch to Spanish. I'm going to translate for the audience later, but I wrote, con el cantaloupe te voy a dar en la cabeza yo. Like, I'm just going to get the cantaloupe and just smash it into your head. Like, no.
I mean,
because at some point, Umberto says like a cantaloupe would have done the same as Bardia. That's so unfair.
Oh, yes, I remember.
That's so unfair. I was raging.
He did not get that much of an opportunity, you know. Like, it's not his fault. I'm sure he was a lovely person.
I mean, it's like Xerxes the Second.
A melon. Call him a melon. So, I have a personal take on the importance.
Please do.
I agree with you, Umberto. I think Dara did everything. Like, I think he either killed everybody or got Cambyses to kill Bardia, or kill Bardia himself. Like, I don't buy the Gaumata thing whatsoever. Like, I don't think that's true, because it's really unlikely, and it's like potentially, as Sariel was asking themselves, like, didn't anyone saw Bardia before? Like, it's I don't know if you or the audience fans of The Simpsons, but I love them. And it's like the same as when Homer enters a bar and it looks like Homer, but it has like a very big curvy mustache saying, oh no, I am incognito guy. And then Homer is like actually walking outside, like it's impossible that someone was just like take the place of Bardia and no one would notice. I think it sounds so fabricated.
Even if you think, oh, it's a person, like maybe not many people were that close to Bardia, being, you know, nobility or however you want to call it, royalty. And also, yes, there are people who look like other people, especially if like someone has a lot of attributes that are not like easily disguisable. Like maybe you have a very recognizable beard and haircut, and then, you know, the shape of your eyes, maybe not that relevant. The shape of your nose, if it's like kind of, you know, kind of the same, but like, come on. Like you can tell two people apart. Like maybe not, you know, a random person walking down the street, but someone who interacts with this person in like a day-to-day basis. I don't buy it.
No,
I don't really.
No, absolutely. And here actually, I'm going to read from my notes because he had the support of the most important families in Parsa, and he held a lot of power. Not just him, his father, his Taspes, and well, Irdabama. You mentioned Irdabama at some point in the podcast. I read some sources saying this woman that was a businesswoman and had like
yes, that's right. Yes, we did mention her.
I read somewhere, and I can't remember where it was, that maybe she was related to Lara, or maybe it was his mom or something. So even if maybe it was not her with that name, and it was not personally her, but possibly his mom was also super powerful. So I think we take for granted how much he could do just by himself, and all sources of what happened are based on that. Even Herodotus is based on what that I was telling.
Yeah. So, you know, if you write history, then you can just make of it whatever you want. It's a very powerful tool.
Yeah, and I'm super biased because I like Bardia and Cambyses, but come on, like if you take don't take the pinch of salt, take the bag, the kilo of salt with you, like and that's to me Bardia is a Shahanshah. Why? Because nobody thinks he is. That's the thing.
Fair enough. Okay.
Well, like I said, if you get to die 3 times, that's, you know,
that's really impressive.
That's something.
Yeah.
Well, few people get to do more.
And also, it might be because I have a couple of good friends that are named Bardia, so I always imagine them as being like, you're an Achaemenid prince. Cool. So maybe, and that's what I wanted to say.
Nice.
And then we get to the man, we get to him,
the legend,
Darayabush, the king, the man, the legend, Darayabush the first. And if you ask me, he is the only reason we are talking about the Achaemenid Empire, because there would not be Achaemenid Empire without him. Absolutely not. Like we don't know what Cyrus intended. We don't know what was to be after Cambyses and stuff, but Dara is the heart and soul of the Achaemenid Empire. I will fight with absolutely.
Also, I feel like if you substituted for Darius like a less capable ruler, then it would have all come crumbling down. Couple generations, one generation after Cyrus, and it would have been a new empire somewhere else popping up.
Unfair to Cambyses and Bardia because we don't know what would they have done with the empire they inherited. But even the name, the Achaemenid dynasty, is Darius's doing.
Yeah.
So I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
A whole novel.
It keeps going. It's just me fangirling about him, like have a lot of like bonuses. I'm not gonna please go listen to the episode. I say chapter, sorry. Like I take it as chapters because it's a story. And please do listen to the So You Think You Can't Rule Persia to meet one of the most interesting people in history. If you ask me, he's one of the most interesting people in like history as a whole. And I know a bit about history. So I love that you commented on the Eastern evil kings, because this is a super interesting stereotype that Herodotus has transcended and has carried on to damaging levels, starting with a 300 film. And even in Spanish, saying satrap is an insult and is used as a detrimental word. Yeah, it talks about if you call someone satrap, you call it an authoritarian, cruel, and
just a bad ruler, a bad
not open to dialogue.
Okay.
It's just like a very authoritarian person. Which, if you ask me, satrap is a beautiful word. Satrapa in Spanish is beautiful, and even in the 300 film which is not to be taken seriously. I mean, it's a film based on a comic, and that comic is based in a former film. It's not intentional.
It's a big game of broken telephone. It's fine.
Yeah, and but it has its thing because it throws the message, a powerful one. But
that's why we love stories. But not all stories have to be actual
true.
But it carries on with the stereotype of the Eastern being that authoritarian, even dictatorial to modern day's eyes, which is interesting because it shows, first of all, how much Greek propaganda was against the Iranians at that time, how much against them they were, just blatantly against them. That's it. They were the enemy, and therefore they had to be worse. But also it shows how much they did not understand the Achaemenid Empire, because my other note here is geography and Greece. The Greeks actually did not really know how big was the Achaemenid Empire because they didn't know what happened from Parsa, from the satrapy of Parsa, where Persepolis is, eastwards, like towards the east. They had no idea what that was. Like that, they knew it was like land belonging to the Persians, we guess, but they did not really. When you read the sources, you can see that they don't really know where things are. I mean, Herodotus
you can't just go to your phone, open Google Maps, and take a look at what is in there. You probably wouldn't even be able to get to a cartographer or any kind of map if you didn't have some connections to someone who happened to have maps. And even if you did have maps, you had to send someone there to make them. And if you hadn't, then
I think it's really interesting because that's the reason why the parts located in the West in the stories by the Greek authors are much more precise because they're familiar to them. On the other hand, when you read about, especially Central Asia, they rely so much on oral tradition that they don't really know. For example, when you were mentioning the Massagueta, they said, these people that never had alcohol. As is them really? Do you really think alcohol was not a thing in Central Asia? Land of banquets, if it was ever one. So it's these things, Herodotus just throws information on the table, be like, these people are far away, which is it's interesting because we know that the Greeks made it to India.
Yeah, eventually.
Because
they definitely.
Yeah, even before Alexander and even later, of course. I mean, we have the Seleucids there. Kiss on the forehead to all my Seleucid fans out there. They are important for the history of Iran. Not my cup of tea because they're too Hellenic for me, but they are important. So it's really nice and fun reading Herodotus and seeing how everything regarding Saravis and the Anatolian Peninsula, that's under control. We know what we're talking about. And then you read the parts about Central Asia, and it's like, so there were horses, there was land, people wore trousers, and they were not civilized. Like, really? That's all you have? Yes. That's everything that there's to know. All right. So, okay, great. Fine. Yeah, good job.
Yeah, but even like Alexander, when he goes to India, he doesn't know how far it goes. So he's just trying to convince, trust me, the end of the world is just across the next hill. It's going to be okay. We'll get there.
It's so funny. It's so funny to me when they're like, no, we can make it to India. Alexander Aziz, Iskandar Aziz. Do you know what India is? No, but I have a hunch. Like, okay, fine.
Yeah. Well, we're just gonna take a look. Listen, it's gonna be fine.
Quick detour. I heard they have elephants. Let's go see.
Yeah.
Let's go check it out.
Yeah. So
how big can the world be? Really? Like.
I have another note like up on the Saka tribes, the Scythians, and it's like at some point Umberto highlighted how this was possibly propaganda to make Dara look stupid, but there's not really a way that Dara did not know how the Saka behaved because they were part of his empire, and he probably knew a handful of them. And to me, this is an elaborated story to make him look dumb or less capable, because after all, I think with the Greeks, there is this mixture of feelings between this thin line between love and hatred, because they hate the Persian king, they hate the Iranian kings, but at the same time, they're fascinated by them because they're so different. Yeah. And sometimes they wonder how one man could have all this power. It's because if anything, that I was impressive. Like, it's just like biggest empire in the known ancient world. So, and many tribes and people from the Iranian plateau were nomads or followed nomadic lifestyle. This is something that's normally not mentioned. And when you speak about cities like Ecbatana, Pasargada, Sush, Persepolis, people tend to think that was the way of living there. Actually, a lot of people were nomadic still, and they followed nomadic lifestyles. There were cities, a couple of them, but it was not generalized in the Achaemenid Iran. Of course, this varied because the Achaemenid Empire, if anything, was vast and huge. So it really depends on where you are located. I really like that you include maps and you encourage people to look at them, because I think maps are fundamental to understand actually how big we're talking. As Ariel was saying, how big the world can be. Actually, just take a map and try to just look at it.
Yeah, I mean,
it's long, it's vast, and it's varied and different. So of course it depends on where you're talking about. But yeah, cities were not we should not imagine the Achaemenid Empire as a super urbanistic one, because it certainly
that's just not a thing. Yeah.
No, not for many people, because I'm thinking about the Sogdians, the Saka, the Bactrians. There are cities, there are towns, there are villages, but many people still rely on a nomadic lifestyle, and that's important to know. In fact, around, have you visited? I think I have it here. I think I have it on my notes somewhere, but have you visited the Getty Museum reconstruction of Persepolis?
I've had a quick look. It was very nice. Yes.
It's amazing. I had a whole video touring it because it's amazing, but it's really good to see that you have Persepolis and the surroundings are empty. I read on a paper recently that those surroundings would probably be packed with nomadic tents and nomadic people coming and going to come to trade at the core, the very heart of the empire, just to present.
Of course, that makes so much sense, because if it's something that's common enough that there's a lot of cultures and a lot of tribes that do that, then if you do have a city, you need a place for those people to come by, right? That's just how it works. Same as having a port or.
And even just the Achaemenid court, moving different places depending on necessity. That's, I guess, a bit of an echo.
Yeah, that's quite nomadic if you think of it. Definitely. And it's like the fact that they change locations based on the weather, on the season, that speaks of our nomadic behavior, because now we just spend the different seasons in just one house, which is where we normally live. We do not consider, it's winter is coming, so I'm gonna move southwards. Or, it's too hot in here, I'm going to go northwards, maybe for a holiday, but not as I'm going to
move,
settle here. And that's very, I love moving ports. I have a thing here, and, but I have a question, because it says imperial identity, which is also my jam, because your girl is an art historian. And the art and the message behind Susa and Persepolis, that's my favorite thing about Dara. He was so clever. He was so intelligent.
That's why we love him so much, because he's just brilliant and terrible and amazing.
Oh my gosh, he is terrible. He's possibly one of the worst people that ever existed. I think he must have had a good side.
I'm sure he did.
Maybe he was a loving father. Or maybe he was very concerned with his subjects and generals. I imagine him being a super loyal friend to certain people. But on the other hand,
you don't want to cross him, is the point. You don't want to be in his way.
No. He had a temper for sure. Something that his son inherited. If you ask me, it's oh my God, birds of a feather. And so, of course, I had something that as a historian I have to hear, how, and Herodotus, there's the tale when Sardis burned down,
right,
there is this legend saying that Dara had someone whispering into his ear 3 times a day, don't forget the Greeks, remember the Greeks, blah, blah, blah. Of course, that never happened. That was an invention of Herodotus. And regarding numbers, it's important to remember that Herodotus believed there were like 5 billion people on the Achaemenid side, which is literally
it's a bit much, yeah. Kind of difficult to supply.
I have already like a whole video on the battle I can English on the Battle of Thermopylae. So, propaganda, political agenda. Everyone was following their own particular views. And the interesting thing is that we do not keep anything from the Iranian side. So possibly it would look the same, but the opposite, if I'm explaining, it would be as propagandistic and as following an agenda as the Greek side.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they were following their own.
I can imagine, these savages at the border of the world, they weren't worth conquering. We just went to teach them a lesson and then came back and it was fine.
Yeah. And, I have like bonuses here, nice. Like bonus comments. Ooh. Bonus is that actually I'm saying that we owe Dara so much. We do, because actually he was the one inventing, like coming up with the word Shahanshah.
Oh, was he? Really?
Because your boy was humble.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it wasn't used before Dara? Really?
No, because Cambyses never called himself a king of kings, and Cyrus did not either.
Huh. Okay. Interesting.
I love that Cyrus keeps using the term king of Anshan.
Yes, that is.
Yeah, that's sweet. That takes
once you have the huge empire, King of Anshan is just like a cute reminder, like, oh, we used to have that little city once in time.
It's like I came from a humble origin.
Yeah,
it was like, oh, my household was very humble, and then I made my way to the top.
Because we love a humble king.
Oh God, we do.
Who loves to talk about how humble he is, because he is indeed so humble. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. That's how you know. That's how you identify a humble person. And here I'm just saying that Dara is the Achaemenid Empire. Basically, we wouldn't be talking about the Achaemenids were it not for him. And I love that you read this part where Dara says he is a friend of the right, because actually this friend of the right thing is something probably connected to the Asha principle from the Mahzayasna. Oh. Asha is the ultimate truth. In fact, one of the Amesha Spenta is called Asha Bahista, who translates some roughly as the ultimate truth or the only truth. And the Asha principle, that's the reason why Xerxes also says that lying is the opposite of following Ahura Mazda's command, because Asha, the truth, is what we all should be seeking as inhabitants of this world. And this is the way of Dara saying that we don't know, we have not many mentions of religion, because Dara and Xerxes are considered only on the political side and the conquest military side mostly. But this is one of the hints of saying what their religion was at the time. And this is I really like the subtlety of this. I'm a friend of the right, which even you guys in the podcast were like, yeah, of course, what are you going to say? You are the king. You're not going to say that you're a liar. Which you are a very big
which you absolutely are. Yeah.
Azizam. When I did the Darius stream, one of my bacha made a meme of me on screen, and that it was like there was this tiny dialogue. There was a head of Dara saying, "I have the right to rule," and then it was my completely discomposed face being like, "No, you didn't. No, you did not." Absolutely not. And the only tiny thing, the Farbahar is not a person.
Damn it. I knew there was something.
The Farbahar is a spirit, is an energy, but it's not a person. Nothing in Zoroastrianism, apart from the Zoroastrian priests, are persons. Like they're not people. They are like above that. So if you like, I feel like this is getting like super long and stuff. So maybe if you want to discuss this, I think we could have, I could have you guys maybe over on Twitch again, or I can come here again, because I think we could talk about these art and message, this imperial identity, which is my favorite part of the reign of Dara, because he knew how to convey this message of together under my command, but together we are stronger, we embrace diversity, but we acknowledge authority. the art in Persepolis is just perfect, delivering that message, and it's so powerful. And something that I want to bring to the attention is that even if Persepolis was the most powerful city in Iran at that time, and possibly one of the most powerful cities of the ancient world, there are no representations of battles or of bloodshedding, of like cruelty. Rather, you have people coming together, and of course they are subjugated under one authority, which is the imperial authority. But the choice, the fact that they chose that as their artistic program, I think it's amazing, like how clear that Dariush wanted to be with what he wanted for the empire. And when he represents himself in his tomb in Achaemenid, when you see all the satrapies, all the provinces of the empire actually holding his throne, yes, of course, he is on the top, and he's like the top of it, literally. He's the bigger figure. There's this very powerful visuals on it. But at the same time, he's aware that what's sustaining him are the provinces and the people forming his empire. And that means keeping them at bay, for sure, but also listening to them and acknowledging them and being intelligent enough to know how to manage the differences. And this is me just fangirling over the art of the Achaemenids, because what not to brag about. It's like, oh, it's amazing. Have you guys been in Iran yet?
No, not yet. Haven't had the chance.
Should we have a trip? Because I want to go back.
I mean,
that'll be fun.
I mean, like,
I want to go back.
If you want, I would be absolutely delighted to have not only a trip to Iran, which on itself would be incredibly interesting, but a trip with you so you can explain things.
Good, yes.
I think you would kill me on the third day.
I would be honored.
That would be amazing.
I love these kinds of trips. Maybe we can talk about it. Maybe,
we'll discuss. We'll see.
So we'll discuss businesses later. So, well, the last of the three big, but definitely not least, is our beautiful boy Xerxes. I love Xerxes so much, like so much. Xerxes to me is one of the worst understood kings, just because he lost the Greco-Persian wars. I can English. The doctor wars, if you look for that in Spanish, because we actually call it the guerras médicas, the Median wars. Why? I have no idea. Someone explained things to me. So Xerxes to me is poorly understood. Again, because of the Greek campaign, I literally wrote down Herodoto acuéstate, like go to sleep. Because
Herodotus, go home, you're drunk.
Exactly. It's just everything is just so politically tainted. I mean, you cannot blame Herodotus for being on a side and from being a man of his time.
I mean, he's living in the environment.
Exactly. And he has and he's afraid of the Iranians, and he doesn't want a war. I mean, I understand Herodotus perfectly, but we should do as well. Again, Xerxes is much, much more than just the Battle of Thermopylae, the Battle of Plataea, of Marathon. Xerxes' legacy goes beyond that. And when I spoke about him on Twitch, I avoided any mention to the Greco-Persian wars on purpose, because what I could do a separate section for that. But Xerxes is the constructor. He is the builder. He is the one focused on art, and he was very good looking. According to Strabo, he was so good looking, and I was like,
that always gives, like, it is sad, but that always will give you privilege. Like, it's absolutely true.
No, definitely. It's just like, I remember, I don't think you included this on the podcast, but Umberto asked me whether Strabo is one of the authors that mentions that Xerxes was very good looking. And he was. Of course he was. He was the most precious Achaemenid ever existed. I dare to say that he was even more better looking than Cyrus, because Cyrus had all the things, but Xerxes was precious and gorgeous and handsome and fantastic. He was beautiful. And there's some in the reign of Xerxes, there's a lot of mentions to the Mazda Yasna because apparently he was a king that was more oriented towards religion. And I come here as a representative of the Daevas, and careful with the word demon, because they are not demons. They kind of have been understood as demons because we don't have a similar word, and also because we're very influenced by monotheistic religions, which is completely fine. It's what we are. But actually, the Daeva are more the counterparts of the Yazata. Well, not more. They are the counterparts of the Yazata. They are the assistants of Angra Mainyu, which is the opposite of Ahura Mazda. If Ahura Mazda embodies order, Angra Mainyu embodies chaos, because that's what Mazda Yasna was at the first time: chaos versus order. And it was not good versus evil, definitely not. It was, they understood that things had their opposites, that both were required for the word to work. That changed over time, of course, and eventually you have this switch and this swift towards a much more like good versus evil thought. In later Avestan texts, you can really see, like, you know, Daevas are very much jinn. They are jinn, deeps, demon, bad spirits, however you can call them. But originally the Devas and the Deva inscription had more, it has more like a political dimension, and Xerxes wanted to keep the Indians at bay. So he's calling the Devas actually are super sacred in the Vedic religion and in the Indian cult. So that's the reason he's saying the Devas are the opposite, because when moving to the Zoroastrian belief, the Devas become the quote unquote the evil ones because they are the opposite. I mean, it's super interesting. I recommend you to read an article by my academic godfather. It's called Devas, Bhagas, and Deities. I think his name is Israel Campos.
Thanks. That sounds really interesting.
So the dream of the deity, like the god that actually woke Xerxes in the middle of the night.
Oh yes, that was also excellent.
Yeah, like the evidence of these, I love it because it's so fun. But actually, I like using these kind of things to learn something, because how we say, like, I went to say that's fake. Okay, but how do we know that? How do we know that that is not a thing that happened? Well, that is because the evidence of this being a Greek invention is that the deities, the divinities, were different in Hellas and in Iran. There are not really records of any being receiving messages from Ahura Mazda that was not Sartosht. Like the deities don't go to the mortals being like, you must go to Greece. Like, God, is that you? Like, no, because that's what Ahura Mazda does. Something very interesting in the Mazda Yasna is that if Ahura Mazda needs to deliver a message, he does so himself.
Okay, right, fair enough.
And also only to Zartosht. Also, the Yazatas present themselves to Zartosht, but only to him. They don't go about being like, hello, good looking. I am the Yazata of the Divinity Waters, and you are just looking fine.
Wouldn't that be something?
Oh my God. In fact, I mean, this is a personal take, of course, but you know how in Greek or Roman mythology, and especially in Greek mythology, the deities are all like, humans.
Yeah.
In the Iranian pantheon, it would be much more like, ew, humans.
Gross people.
Understandably so.
Yeah. Yeah, because we bleed, we sweat, and they're like, oh my God, no.
Honestly, yeah, big same sometimes.
Yeah, like, oh no, humans. So like animals, humans, or nature itself are the ones that carry the messages from above, or Ahura Mazda appears themselves. And you know, the Yazatas, the deities, do not communicate with humans directly unless they are heroes. Okay. For example, we have Feretaona, that is a particular hero that speaks to Anahita and Mayuata, which are two Yazatas. Anahita is a Yazata of the sacred waters, and Mayuata is basically an air nomad because he's the Yazata of the howling winds. And I always imagine him like the air nomads from
Fair
Avatar.
Enough. That's good aesthetics.
Because goals, like, yeah, following that thought, Mayuata is bold.
Yeah.
Do we have representations of him? Not a single one, but leave me be with my fantasy.
If there were, you can have your own fan fiction version.
Yeah, here's where I have my note. Please do go to the Getty Museum Reconstruction. It's amazing. It's for free. It's on my internet, and you can spend as many hours, days, months browsing there as you wish.
Oh, really? Yes, I would really like to check it out. Also, we'll put is your tour available?
I think
anywhere?
it is. I think it's on YouTube somewhere.
All right, yeah, we'll put links to everything on the description, so if people are interested, they can go check it out.
Yeah.
And okay, here is where I actually confront Ariel and Humberto.
Things happen.
Yes.
What do you mean?
The moment you've all been waiting for.
It's
finally here.
Listen. What do you mean? Xerxes the okay.
No, I feel like I gave my opinion in the podcast. I feel like I justified my answer. I am sorry that you don't think so.
You must be, but you're not. What you mean? Xerxes the okay. Cambyses was okay. Bardia was okay. Artaxerxes was okay. Xerxes is the great.
Well, some things, yes. Some other things, yeah.
Greek propaganda has gotten into your ears. And I know you like the Greek or Roman a lot. You do a lot of mentions and comparisons to the Roman Empire. Don't think those have escaped from my ears.
I know what I know. Listen.
Xerxes is much more than the okay. That's my take. That's a hill I will die on. He maintains a vast empire. And I think this, like, on a most serious note, I really think that most of his history is focused on the campaigns in Greece because we have a lot of information about that. And also because
things happen.
The West,
yes.
hashtag Orientalism, hashtag the West being the West.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think Xerxes, honest, like, in the most serious note, I think he was a very good king. I think he was a very good king. And
I mean, yeah, he was very impressive. Like I'll give like I said, I justified my opinion. I think there were a lot of really impressive things, and I'm not saying he doesn't deserve it. I'm just saying. When you call someone the great,
ask you to change it from Xerxes the okay. We don't do the great because you don't believe in the great, and I respect that. But from the okay, what about Xerxes the good?
Xerxes the good is definitely fine.
Xerxes the good.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah.
I'm accepting your part in this, but I'm a little bit forward in mine too. Like, okay.
No, this is excellent. This is good diplomacy. I accept this bargain.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Because I was like, I think I even spoke like out loud. I was like, oh, Xerxes okay. What? And in here I wrote, I have things to say.
Fair enough.
Because I had. I mean, I understand, and I am willing to understand that I am biased. I said it at the beginning of the podcast. I am absolutely biased. Oh, you're biased. Yes, that's the reason I'm here. Because I am the biggest defender of Xerxes in the world. I have like another super tiny note in here. It's like when they say brothers, like Theseus has like brothers all going around. This was a brother. Sometimes you are correct, Humberto, they are half brothers, but sometimes are just the like people that grew up together.
Okay. Makes sense.
It's like they are boys that grow up together, like sons of nobility or high rank militaries. They grew up there and they were educated together. So sometimes the Greeks think they must be related, but sometimes they are. I mean, they have half brother, the sons of concubines, they share one parent, but some of the time it's just like all the kids
just
grow up together.
Exactly. Class. And because of how the Greek mentality works, it's like they must be related. They must be, and I think, I don't know what, this is in a later source, and when I mean later, I think it's 13th century or something. They think, oh, these two people, they must be cousins, and like, no, but I understand where you're coming from. It's like, because you're very close and stuff, they're actually friends. And also the friends thing. Yes, the Xerxes had a lot of good male friends, and I'm gonna leave it there.
Fair enough.
Understood. Excellent.
They seem like very good friends.
Right? They were roommates even.
Yes. And who is it? Is it Yeah, is that when they say, like, oh, if I am with a woman, don't enter. And then suddenly it was like, and if they're not with a woman. Yes. And I'm really happy because thank you. Like that, yeah.
Important
You know,
loopholes.
we use roommates in the historical sense.
Yes, of course.
Exactly. Bedmates, I'm gonna say. Whoops.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a thing. Like that they didn't marry them, but you know.
Listen,
it's good to be the king.
To discuss how like, oh, we can't apply modern words and vocabulary to things that are not modern. Guess what? We need to use language and explain things to people nowadays. So if a word does the job, you know, like,
if we have a word that they didn't have, we can use it.
Of course it doesn't. Like, of course it doesn't. Like, of course they wouldn't have used that word. That word didn't exist. But so wouldn't they also wouldn't have used any of the words we're using now to describe any of the things that they did.
Yeah.
So, you know, and just it does not, like, I'm sorry. We all, like, obviously you have to have nuance and you need to understand that everything is going to be not exactly as we understand society now, because that's the whole point of why history is interesting and difficult, because people change through times and we're never going to know, we're never going to be there to check, we're never going to have a person from there explain it to us. And this still does not justify your homophobia or your transphobia or your racism or, you know, like, that's just cheap excuses. I will not take it.
I do agree with you, and I think that makes us a little bit, because sometimes the people just venture to say that we are following a certain agenda. Just like, we're giving visibility to many people that could not speak by themselves at that time. They existed, they've been there. We didn't invent these things. We definitely did not invent these things now. This is not a 21st century phenomenon. This is not a 20th century phenomenon. They were there. And I don't see the big, I mean, I understand.
If anything, well, the bias and the changing of history has been done afterwards, very knowingly. The Victorians did a lot of bad.
Oh my god, they did.
To history.
Yeah, I always say that the 19th century has been so hurtful for history. Like,
they told the story they wanted to tell, and they got the facts, and they were like, okay, we're going to tell it this particular way, and we're going to talk about this and not this other thing. And nowadays we're still undoing a lot of things that were done, obviously not only in the 19th century, but, you know, Occidental Victorians had a lot to do with it, because it's
Western people had a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very colonialist point of view. It's a very Western point of view. Like, it was done very purposefully.
Yes.
And now we're still undoing that because people take that vision of history as fact, and that's still just one vision of history. Like, it was actually very purposefully done. So
yeah, it's the same, not only regarding LGBTQ people, not only but it's just talking about everything. Yeah, and we were saying here in this podcast as well that we need to fight with this Orientalistic point of view of the Eastern king that is evil and is dominated by women. Can you imagine? And stuff like that. That we're still dealing with stuff like that, and I still receive questions. I always take as willing to learn in my Twitch, be like, oh, how truth to reality is the 300 film and stuff. Like, I get it. I mean, this like, films carry messages in a way much more powerful than history books do, and there's so much more behind. And possibly if we could have Dara speaking, defending what he did, we would be fascinated to be like, dude, we know you invented everything. Don't stop defending yourself. It's like, no, listen, I had reasons. It's like, I got listen to me for a moment. It's like Patty said, like, why did you do that? That was awful. Listen to me. I had my reasons, and I'm going to explain them to you, because you're welcome, sweetheart. So yeah, I do believe in giving visibility to not only the marginalized parts of history and what the creators do, but yeah, I mean, this is something that we know, that the Iranian kings had female concubines and male concubines, and that was a thing. And it's been a thing. It's been a thing throughout many different cultures in Iran, many different people that lived in Iran, and yes, of course they had their different takes on that, but that has
Yeah, definitely.
It happened.
Exactly. It happened then. It happens now. It's just part of just.
Of course, they did not marry the.
No, that depends on each
concubine.
culture and how. Yeah, of course. But they also wouldn't marry lots of other people because of status, because of where they were from, because this is not a political debate, or what would be considered correct in a strategic way. This is purely a human nature and love and affection debate. And I feel like, again, people are people. Feelings are still pretty much the same feelings.
No, definitely.
Yeah.
We have not evolved. Like that, this hasn't been enough time for humans to be different than now. Trust me, that's not how it happens.
It's really important that we are also diving into the history of emotions and history. This is actually a tendency that started in the 80s. No, I was going to say the 1800s. No, in the 1980s, which is called the history of mentalities. And they explore things such as emotions and collective thoughts and stuff like that. I don't know much about it. I'm not the expert really, but I've read a lot of articles on fear, especially, and love, which are the big things. And it's incredible how we can learn so much about this, because sometimes we tend to dehumanize the people we study. And I say this in a very intentional way, because when they use these kind of legend of Cyrus weeping for his wife during a week because he was so sad that Casanana had passed. Maybe he was super sad that his wife was dead. Maybe he was, and maybe how the Massageta story is actually a legend and stuff. But possibly, if that would have happened, the queen would be so upset because she lost her son, and she will be sad. She would like to be raised. So we take for granted that these people did not have emotions, or did not laugh, and did not share.
It's only natural that it happens. We're essentially learning from them through either bureaucracy, which always not the most human part of humanity, if you ask me, or we're learning through legend, which is meant to portray feeling. That's how we humanize people, is through stories. Like movies do it all the time, right? If you watch a biographical movie, suddenly you feel like you get to know the person a little bit. But the problem with stories, whether they're legends or a biographical movie about someone, is that sometimes the truth is changed, altered, adapted
to fit what you're trying to show.
We're working exactly
following a particular thought. Like, for example, like changing history so much that you make the sequel to the 300 and you portray this awful relationship between Xerxes and Artemisia the Caria.
Oh, right.
Well, actually, Xerxes leaves his own kids to Artemisia for her to watch them, which is like, they were, if anything, incredibly good friends. Because you would not trust your own kids to choose a random woman you happen to hate.
Definitely.
But no, obviously.
So and it's just things like that. So it's like so I don't know. I think I am really far off the land of wandering in here, because I love speaking about history and about the past. I mean, that's the reason I did like the whole thing shenanigan for the PhD.
That's why we invited you, and why you are a good communicator.
Yeah, excellent.
History communicator, of course.
Yeah. But remember, if you need to leave here with just one idea or two, is like, remember what Umberto Ansariel said: people are people. Take everything Herodotus says with a pinch of salt, and remember, Xerxes was extremely gorgeous. That's like the thing. Have you watched? All right, there's this awful, and sorry, I love this film, but it's awful. It's called One Night with the King, and it tells the story of Esther of Susa. From the Bible. The Xerxes there is ridiculously handsome. If anything, I want to think that Xerxes looks
historically accurate.
Perfect.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, actually, this actor has blue eyes. Xerxes could have had blue eyes. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not. But yeah, it's extremely good looking. It's historically wise, it's not such a great film, but you need to watch it. It's just It's an experience. I love this film. I mean, I acknowledge it's awful, but I love this film. It's one of my guilty pleasures. Not actually guilty because I'm not ashamed of recognizing it, but it's just everything is pretty about that. It's like a heartwarming love story. And actually, they do not call the king Ahasuerus. They call him Xerxes. And the 3D reconstruction of Susa there, Jesus bendito, like it looks so cheap and so awful. Being like,
so sad.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible. And you have like in the Achaemenid throne, you have this like golden winged lion behind the king, which is like no. So if you watch it.
We will invite
you, and then we can have a mini episode afterwards where we comment the movie. I'll put it on our list of things to watch.
Yes.
Do it. It's an experience. Especially since you have the Night with the King. I think I have it somewhere. I can send it to you. It's
excellent.
I mean, it's the Jewish take on Xerxes and what happened to the Jews thanks to Esther. It's following the biblical story of Esther. So it's interesting. It looks pretty. It's so pretty. Like it's like visually, it's just like, oh, everything's gorgeous except for
for Susa.
Plastic lion.
It happens.
Oh yeah. Sometimes you end up with a very bad Achaemenid prop on set, but if it's gold and it shines,
yeah.
You know, I'm gonna turn Umberto into a gold fanatic.
Yay!
As I am.
Gold.
It is pretty. You know. It does the job. I get it why people like it.
Gold is a good material.
I am a magpie, so yeah. And that's everything. And that's everything I have noted down. Right. And sorry for this extremely long episode. I have the feeling that I only spoke.
Thank you so much for contributing all this wonderful knowledge.
I
really fun. Like your podcast. I think it's super necessary. I have even if I can disagree on some opinions because I would just rank my favorites directly as Shahanshah and the rest is Shahanna. Yes. I still love hearing other people's opinion, and I love that all the people are discussing Iranian history. And I think you guys are doing a super nice job, and you deserve all the success you're having and what is to come, because I know this is only the beginning.
Well, yeah, we barely started, and we have a lot of kings to go.
Have a lot, yes.
I'm particularly excited about a couple of them.
I remember that I have a question. Please. I'm going to ask you two. It's not an exam, but I want your honesty, like 100% honesty. Which one so far has been your favorite?
Oh, Darius, of course.
You cannot see it because you're listening to this, but Umberto's face was like, I'm the happiest person in the planet. I am so sure of my answer.
Because he just has everything. He has all the possible drama, and we know enough about him to know what he's like. Like, I think Cyrus is good, but I don't know him as a person, while Darius is like, yes, I know what you're like, and I know that you're terrible, and I love it.
Yes, the drama.
I know that you're terrible and I love it.
So far, I've liked it. For me, is everything's so new. I thoroughly enjoy every episode we make, and every king is very different, and I get to learn more things with everything we talk about. So it's very difficult for me to choose. I think since Umberto said Darius, I'm going to say Cyrus, because I love that we had the two episodes. Like, I like Cyrus, not just the Cyrus episode, but the Astyages episode combined. It was because it was a good story. Well, obviously that's the whole point, right? Like, Cyrus himself is just a good story.
Yeah.
So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I loved seeing him grow up from a baby literally to a man, and see everything he accomplished and all the different stories, and the cool woman who unfortunately brought him his death eventually.
Amistris?
Tamiris, I think.
Tamiris. Yes. I was trying to find the name of my.
I mix up so many names in daughter. Yeah, you're right.
Amistris, I think, is Xerxes' wife, maybe?
Yeah, Amistris is Xerxes' wife. Yeah. I did not attempt to pronounce Xerxes' real name because
it's complicated.
It's really difficult. I think it's beautiful, but it's really difficult. It's called Ufa. It's called Achaemenid.
Okay. Yes, that is.
Yeah, like
José?
there's
Difficult.
Pepe para los amigos.
Ruined Xerxes for me forever.
Xerxes.
No. Who, Pepe? Oh, yeah.
Ah,
Okay.
Pepe, of course.
Pepe the Great.
Pepe.
Okay. Well, no, thank you so much for joining us. This was wonderful, absolutely beautiful. You do not have to be worried about talking too much. This is exactly why we wanted you in the podcast. I'm sure people are really going to enjoy the episode.
Yes, and we're hoping to have you back at some point, definitely, to talk about more stuff.
We can continue maybe when we finish with the Achaemenids, and you can.
To be fair, I
tell
don't
us...
know much about the rest of the Achaemenids because I stopped in Artaxerxes. I actually don't know. My knowledge is very limited, so I'm going to learn a lot from you because I never dived into them. Because again, I like what I like. I'm not sure.
Very specialized.
Yeah, and I'm really interested of what's to come. I know a little bit more about the last of the Achaemenids for
reasons
because it's in the Shahnameh. That's the only reason, because he is in the Shahnameh. and he has a thing with Iskandar and
spoilers. We'll see. We'll find out.
He had a thing. Like, if you want, I can send you. If you want it for that episode, Umberto, I can send you actually the part of the show.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah,
they can tell that story. They do tell that story, and it's ridiculous saying like the historical version, and then what they came up. It's like, Ferdosi, what were you drinking? Like, that's not what it says here. It's like, no, trust the process. Trust the process. I know what I'm writing about. Like, no, you don't. You have no idea who this person was. Like, yeah, I do.
Please tell us what would you like people to know about you? Where can they find you?
Yes, you have anything special to plug that you'd like to?
Okay, so, well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me. I had the best time because I'm very happy to be here, and you are two of my favorite people on the planet at this point. So
thank you so much.
I'm really happy to be in this space. And regarding where people can find me, well, I run a project on Twitch called Las Plumas de Simur. And you can find me on Twitch and then a couple of social media. I also have a Patreon page. And if you want to know a little bit more about Iran and Mesopotamia, from time to time, you can pop by, say hello, and I will be delighted to hear from you. And thank you so much. And I think, I don't know, I have so many thoughts and positive things to say about this. And I am really happy that you started this podcast, and I'm really happy that you have the courage to do so, because in the first episode you disclaim a little bit about yourself, being like, oh, we know historians, blah blah blah. It's like, listen, you're doing a very good thing for public history. In Spanish we have a beautiful word for this, and it's called divulgación. We don't have the equivalent in English, and I think that's a shame, because
it's usually called communication, like science communication or history communication. It's not the best.
But it's not the best thing. I like that we have divulgación. And actually, I think it's super needed, because we need to tear down. This is something I like to say in my own project, is that we need to build bridges, not walls, because history belongs to all of us. As humans inhabiting the planet, we have the right to history.
Exactly.
And the one you covering is basically one of my favorites in the world. So I'm really happy you started. I'm really happy with how it's turning it. I love the tone you give, how direct and clear and accessible the information is, how fun it is to hear you both speaking on things, and how genuine the interactions are, because when Zariel is surprised, they are surprised. Like, wait, what? and how,
well, like I said, I know nothing, and so I get everything explained,
which
to
is
me.
Great. No, I love it. So if anything, I have to thank you for starting something like this, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people are getting curious and getting to know much more about this part of the world called Iran or Persia, because you are Team Persia, I am Team Iran. And yet we are birds of a feather that flock together. So thank you for all the hard work you put into it, all the effort, all the portraits, all the rankings. It's please do check the website, do check the drawings, because they are super fun.
Yes, they're excellent.
And yeah, I love watching Sariel's take on things. It's like, oh yeah, this person is like this, and they are doing this, and then this and this. Like, oh, I love it, and I love the way you draw beards, because you got it. The Achaemenid beard. You crack the code for the perfect Achaemenid beard. So thank you.
Pure coincidence, but thanks. I'm very happy. Yeah, we'll definitely have you back. And we'll continue this conversation some other time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you,
and
guys.
Thanks, everybody, for listening.
Yeah.
As always, hope you enjoyed this episode. Give Plumas all your love on Twitter and Twitch. We'll have everything, lots of
the links
of
will be
things on the
available.
notes.
You can find it. Don't worry.
And yeah, see you next week. And as always, take care and goodbye.
Yeah, goodbye.
Bye.